Hello and welcome to The Good, The Bad and The Worst, a podcast where we watch movie trilogies and decide which movie is like a pair of giraffes that won't mate. They just walk around eating and not mating. I'm your host Griner, and joining me today...
My name is Conaniah Greaticus Badassicus, and I have a great name. You must kill my name before you kill me.
And I'm Lucius Morgan. And fellas, what we do in life echoes in eternity.
Okay, boys, it's not a trilogy, but we're doing Gladiator 1 and 2. Maybe it'll become a trilogy. We might discuss that a bit later. But how often do you guys think about the Roman Empire? Luke, is this something that's on your mind regularly? Yeah?
Every day, of course. That's unspoken. Of course it is. Every day.
Conan?
All heterosexual males do, if I'm to believe meme culture.
Yeah, I must admit I never think about the Roman Empire.
In all honesty,
that meme came up and I'm like, can't relate. Sorry.
Yeah, in all honesty, I'm the same. I was like, is that? Yeah, it kind of struck me. I'm like, is that actually something people stew on a lot? I don't know. Apparently.
I just think it was better back then. I just think it's neat.
Slaves knew their place.
See, Denzel Washington was asked about that meme, and he had no idea what she was talking about. And she was like, how many, you think about the Roman Empire every day? And he's like, what? He was like, what are you talking about? Like, no. And then he started asking other people on the red carpet. He's like, hey, Max, do you think about the Roman Empire every day? And she's like, no. He had no idea what was going on.
That's funny.
I'm glad I'm not the only one then that doesn't think about the Roman Empire every day.
We're just like Denzel.
Yeah.
I think about Denzel every day.
Yeah, and I consider myself a like Denzel in a lot of ways. Do you guys have a big history with Gladiator? Are these was Gladiator 1 your movie in high school? I definitely had some friends in high school where it was their movie and they talked about it all the time. And I was more of a Matrix kid. I was more showing up in trench coats and black sunglasses. But you guys are a bit younger than me, so this may not even fit your high school timeline. But was this a movie on your radar back in the day?
Hey, what were the other guys in your school? If you're coming in a trench coat, were they coming in like tunics and stuff?
I wasn't coming in trench coat, but I was. I just wanted to identify myself as a big dweeb.
Shout out to Paddy. He used to come to school in a trench coat. If he's listening. Anyway, yeah. Look, this is that weird movie where this is kind of like Braveheart to me, where there are these two movies that have always existed in the monoculture of like big important movies. I never saw them as a kid. I didn't see them until I was a teenager or adult maybe, but they're kind of like quote unquote grown-up movies. I don't know if you guys had them, but I mean in my life there's always been a handful of movies you're like, that's what adults watch and that's what adults like, and when I'm a grown-up I'll like Gladiator. And I watched Gladiator, I like it, but I definitely had no connection as a kid, and my appreciation and experience with it now is still very much like feels muted by comparison, because I knew guys when I went to college, I knew a couple of guys who like Gladiator was their favorite movie, and I was like, really? That's and then, but you're right, then it's just this thing that people seem to love, and it's like that kind of it's like a safe movie that everyone's like, yeah, Gladiator is like a masterpiece, kind of like The Matrix. It's like there's a handful of these movies that you can always point back at and be like, everyone will sort of say, yeah, it's one of the best movies ever made, we all love it. But I'm not in that boat, and as a result, even though I see the reasons why this movie is liked, I'm always like, I don't know, am I missing something? Or why is it that I don't think about the Roman Empire every day? And Russell Crowe. I don't know.
Like, is this movie the reason that most men think about the Roman Empire every day?
I do wonder that.
Very possibly so. I kind of put this film on a pedestal when I was younger. Like, obviously when this came out I was 8. I didn't watch it as it came out, but it was something like Conan was saying, my older brothers who were 16, 17, like they had Gladiator posters, and they walking around like talking like they were Maximus and stuff like that, and they just were big Russell Crowe fans. And I always looked up to it as like, oh, like that's a cool, like, not fantasy, but like swords movie and all this sort of stuff. And I remember when I grew up a bit, I was like, okay, cool, I want to watch this now that I'm an adult, I'm 13. I was like, I can watch this by myself and it's not that scary. And I really liked it, and that's the thing. I also threw a bit of a Russell Crowe phase where I was just like, oh my god, he's the best actor in the world. Like, he's so cool. From this movie, I don't know if it was just because like, oh, he's Australian or whatever. He's just like me. But I don't know. Hans Zimmer soundtrack. There was something I always, if anybody mentioned Gladiator, the helmet. I just found it iconic. And so anytime someone would mention Gladiator in passing, I was always like, oh man, what a movie. Like, awesome movie, you know? But it is something that I felt like, I hadn't watched it in maybe 10 years, you know? It's something that I would catch every now and again if it was on, or be like, oh, you know what, I'll watch that. So I was kind of keen to watch it. And I feel like I looked at it with a different point of view now, but yeah, I don't know. Like I definitely enjoyed it. If I was on Letterboxd when I was a teenager, I probably would have given it 5 stars. But yeah,
You nearly did.
I was just going to say it's interesting. I saw an interview today with Ridley Scott where he was saying like he always wanted to make a sequel to this after he finished the first one, and he said even today, like I have people come up to me and be like, "Oh man, Gladiator's your best film." And so he felt like this pressure of like, oh, I should make a sequel to that. That's everybody's favorite film of mine. And it's interesting because we've talked about him a lot in these podcasts, and for it to be interested, like to look at it as this is his best film, I don't know, but yeah.
That's certainly a take, not my take, but yeah, I remember lots of the guys in my high school being like, "Oh, it's such a cool action movie," but it like when I watched it back then, I'm like, this is not that action packed, right? Like an action movie to me back then was Terminator 2 and Aliens and all these 80s greatest hits that I was really in love with. And then watching this, it felt kind of disappointing. There's all this political intrigue and incest. This is all very boring, but watching it today, my opinion was a little bit different, but we'll get into that directly, I suppose. Are we ready for some stats?
Yes. Stats.
Gladiator 1 came out in 2000, had a budget of 103 million, made 465 million worldwide at the box office. Gladiator 2, 2024, $250 million budget, made 221 million so far. So it's only been out for one weekend in the US, so $55 million weekend opening, which is
pretty good.
Reasonable. I think that's early numbers though. I don't think it's all three yet. Critical reception 67 on Metacritic for Gladiator 1, 63 for Gladiator 2. I'll be interested to see how this one does, given its huge budget. I don't know. We've had this spate of, I know we've talked about it before, but these, I don't know, kind of almost legacy sequels. I don't know what we decided on the name of them as being, but Top Gun Maverick comes to mind, of course. Yeah. And then this movie comes out. Do you think there was a thirst for a Gladiator 2? Luke, you say a lot of people, say it's their favorite movie. I guess they certainly didn't show up to my screening anyway. My screening was pretty much empty.
And that's the thing. I think as much as people love Gladiator and say it's like one of their favorite films, I don't feel like I ever heard anybody being like, "Man, we need a sequel," because spoilers, the lead two characters die. Like it's not really something you do a sequel on. But yeah, I don't know. People were clamoring for it. He wanted to get a rhino in the Colosseum really bad, apparently, 25 years ago, and now he can finally do it. So
what a legend!
Like literally, you should read the interview. Like even years ago, people were saying like, "Oh, if we do another one, Ridley needs his rhino. Like that's what he wants. He wants a rhino in the Colosseum. It was too hard back in the day." So
yeah. I don't think anybody. I mean, I don't know. Top Gun is a good comparison because I don't think anybody was also like, we need more Top Gun in our lives.
True.
But people turned out for that. So I don't know I really don't know what the story is there. Because this is the exact same sort of thing in my mind where, unless it's just a generational thing, I guess, but like, I would put even the original Gladiator and Top Gun in the same boat of like movies that everybody always talks about and likes. But to your point, Luke, I don't think anybody is like, even though everyone's like, "Oh yeah, I love Gladiator," I don't think anyone's actually like watching it every second weekend or
like a fandom around it.
No, that's right. Yeah, there's no like Gladiator turnouts at conventions or like, here's my Commodus cosplay or anything.
Yeah,
it's kind of like a safe pick, and this is, I don't know, like its IMDb score is interesting because it's 8.5 on there. It's like one of the high rated films. It's number 34 in the IMDb top 250, which is an interesting disparity to 67 of a Metacritic. But kind of like populist films that even if they're nobody's favorite movie, everybody still likes them, and they're like, again, it's if you asked an average person on the street who hasn't seen that many movies, like, what are the top 10 films you can think of? They'd probably be like, oh yeah, Gladiator's a good one. Like,
Shawshank Redemption.
Shawshank Redemption is pretty much number one.
Yeah,
that is the one. That's exactly the example of like everybody likes it, I don't know what kind of sick freak thinks it's the best movie ever made, but
Yep.
everyone thinks it's good, and so it gets number one. So
Everyone
Gladiator, I think,
would think that, but like, but
weird. Anyway,
that's the thing as well. Though this got nominated for 12 Oscars and won 5 Oscars. Like, I didn't win. Did it win Best Picture? It won Best Picture, won Best Actor. And yeah, that's I don't know.
like,
It's pretty crazy.
I mean, it speaks to the power of the monoculture at the time. Like, a movie could come along and be a phenomenon. And like I say, Russell Crowe was just at the height of his power. He was incredibly like successful, incredibly popular, and like a big source and sandal epic. You know, there's a tradition of this in Hollywood dating back to like the 40s or the 50s, even. I don't know, before like the 20s, like Ben-Hur and Lawrence of Arabia. You know, like cinema is built on this stuff almost. So to see that again in the modern day, people traditionally turn out for that and like to see the spectacle.
Yeah.
And like, to its point, that's kind of why I think Gladiator 2 maybe works, but I guess just audiences that aren't really in the same. Like, it is that I think Gladiator is think of it as like Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings, right? Like, fantasy is not the genre everybody likes, but for some reason, when it works, people kind of turn out for it. I don't know why exactly that is, but there's something about that fantasy that people just naturally kind of enjoy. And sometimes it can just like pick up steam and dominate every form of pop culture, like focus. Whereas Gladiator 2, I think, is just too past that. Like, we've had Lord of the Rings, we've had Gladiator, we've had Game of Thrones. I just don't think that there is the same hunger for this kind of movie.
Yeah. I'm really curious to see how its box office run ends. Obviously, it's still early in the US, early numbers. It may still end up being successful, but yeah,
I think it'll make
it hasn't.
money.
You know, it hasn't. I haven't seen it become part of the culture like Gladiator was, right?
No, yeah, not at all.
All right, let's kick it off with Gladiator 1. A former Roman general sets out to exact revenge against the corrupt emperor who murdered his family and sent him into slavery.
All right, I need to put a note here. The opening scene with the hand through the wheat. 300 is my version of Gladiator. And I bring that up because 300 does that exact same scene, but with much better CGI and making it look really cool. 300 is the movie that Gladiator always wanted to be. That's the movie that I think about every day.
Yeah.
And so I think that
possibly had a lot to do with the Roman Empire as well.
I think so.
Yeah.
So that's
I don't know, man. The Gladiator
that's
wheat hand is pretty iconic.
It is.
No, 300 slays.
I don't even remember that from 300, man.
I do not at all. I remember a guy getting kicked down a hole, and that's about it.
Fuck yeah.
Like, dude, I used to have tribute videos to 300 on my Bebo page, and I don't even remember the wheat scene, so I don't know.
Oh shit!
It's a very classic scene.
Linkin Park, obviously, as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. So, watching this again, I was interested at how much, like what Grant said earlier, it's not full-on action. Like, you have a big battle at the start.
Yep.
That kind of goes a while as well. Like, I wasn't expecting this battle, where it's a lot. The color palette's very different. It's a lot colder and bluer. And I forgot how much that actually is a big part of the story, introducing the Emperor and everything like that, and going through that. And then, it's kind of slow for the first hour and a half or so. And I forgot that. I was like, just ready for, him lopping off heads and cool helmets and stuff like that in the arena. And I'd forgotten, how much about it is the political side of it and everything. So it was interesting to watch again.
Well, if you want that, I've got a movie for you. It's called 300. It came out 6 years later. So.
Yeah, a lot of action in that.
You're proving my point.
Not so much political intrigue, but...
No. Who needs it when you got buff dudes? Yeah, look, I'm surprised as well. I'd forgotten all about this. I didn't remember anything about this movie, honestly.
Yeah.
Except, the end of him yelling, "Are you not entertained?" And some decent combat.
Yeah.
And I was both surprised at how much more politics there is to the story, and actually pretty interesting stuff, like interesting politics, interesting philosophy in there. And then I was also surprised at how not worse, but how less good the action was as well, which is interesting. But, yeah,
it feels like there should be at least one more Gladiator fight in there. Like it almost feels like there's this there's too few. It almost feels like it's getting up to speed, and now we're getting some really interesting gladiator fights. Oh no, now he's fighting what's his face he's fighting Joaquin Phoenix in a ring of soldiers, and it's the end.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed this rewatch a lot more than I enjoyed it the first time. Like, maybe I'm in a better position to enjoy the political intrigue. Maybe I'm more interested in incest. I'm not sure what it is, but I definitely enjoyed my time with Gladiator for sure. Joaquin Phoenix, I really like his character in this movie. He's just such a man-child. Just watching him throw tantrums and like try and get with his sister. Like every scene is just
get rejected so bad every time.
Just gets rejected so bad, and he's throwing tantrums. And I don't know. I really enjoyed his character in this movie. Like, just lots of fun to watch. Really fun to hate.
Yeah, he's so good. He's so good.
Yeah, it's a lot schlockier as well than I think I realized. Like in my mind, like I said before, like adult films, this is like a really somber, serious, brutal action movie. But it's not like Joaquin Phoenix's character, Commodus, is the best example. Like he is kind of like a petulant child. And even though he is scary, because you kind of have this peripheral knowledge of what the Roman Empire was, and you see sort of what he can do and the fear that he carries. Like every scene with him, is kind of like these really whining, like heartfelt monologues that are just like, this is so pathetic.
Yeah. And
like, but even things like there's this line reading where someone says to him, is like, the great emperor, what is it? I don't know their names. There's too many Roman names, too many Illuses and Illuses. He's like, he touched me on the let's say Caesar. Caesar touched me on the shoulder once. And Russell Crowe laughs, and he's like, he touched me on the shoulder, and goes, I said he touched me on the shoulder once. It's the weirdest line reading in the movie. He says it so strangely. It's like this really bizarre sort of something from like an old-fashioned like opera or something. And there's just these moments of that, like where it's almost played for laughs in some parts. Where I'm like, I know Ridley's having fun with it. He's not taking it too seriously. And so Commodus is like, he dials it up to 11. He's like, play the most sniveling, annoying example of an emperor you can think of. And he's like, I got you. You're gonna love to hate me.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I really like everything with his dad at the start, like how he's not the favorite son at all. And like, Maximus is definitely the son that the emperor wishes he had. Instead of Commodus, and just you can see how much that boils at him. And I mean, he kills his dad by hugging him to death. Like it's it's quite a impactful scene. He's so good in this movie. He's so good in this role. Like, you hate him. You despise him.
Bad move on Dad's behalf, though. Just like dropping a bombshell like that when it's just you guys in a room. Like, come on. At least have a guard there. Do it in the open.
Game of Thrones all over again. It's
just like
never going to get believed.
And he talks about it so much. He's like, this, everyone's corrupt and evil, and the dream room's dying. It's like, this is going to happen. Your son's going to do something dodgy. Like, what are you doing, mate? Just at least bring Maximus in there and be like, he's the one I love, not Commodus. Like, just do that. Like, yeah. Anyway, could have avoided a whole upending of the empire.
Yeah. The fate of Russell Crowe's family, I remember always just being like kind of aghast at that when I was young watching it. I was like, oh man, that's like, you don't feel like it escalates really quick. Like, especially his lieutenant guy betrays him, and I hated that guy so much where he's just like, I don't know, well, your family will see you in the afterlife. And it's like, no, what? Well, like, it's crazy. And then just Russell Crowe's acting in that is really good as well. Like, getting there on the horse, it's like there's a lot of tension in that, and just I don't know, it's horrible.
Yeah. I don't know, there was a behind the scenes of Russell, like he was talking about that scene where he goes up and he kisses his wife's feet, and there's like all this snot's going down his face. He's just great. Like, I did that scene, and Ridley's like, do it again but with less snot. But I think they used the snot take. It was pretty funny.
The snot makes it feel raw and real.
It does feel very raw and real. You're right. It does, and it's a very quick escalation because that happens pretty early on in the movie. It's like we're just getting to know this character. He's excited to go, plant fields and be with his wife.
Yeah.
No, they're dead now. Immediately.
Didn't even get to care about the characters. Like we didn't get to meet them properly. It's just like, oh no, they're gone. But yeah.
I really enjoy the what's the word? I don't know. Like all the armor sets and everything in this, like they're really outlandish and over the top. very well. I feel like Dark Souls took a lot of inspiration from some of these helmets and stuff. Just, I don't know, really, really cool. Probably not very period accurate, but lots of fun to watch.
Ridley Scott doesn't care about period accuracy.
Don't think so. No.
Like that's the thing. I feel like it's always been iconic. The guy with the big like tiger helmet, the big metal one, sort of thing, and his whole look, and Maximus's helmet, like with the spikes, is just super iconic. I feel like I see that at random shops, you know, where they're selling like a fake version of it and stuff like that. But
Yeah, that's one of those helmets you'll see at like all of those sort of alternative stores where you can buy like swords and stuff. You'll usually see a replica of the Gladiator helmet. Yeah, like this movie won costume design Oscar as well, which is over Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, which is I don't know if that's aged well or not. I'd have to assess that differently, but yeah, like you look at that, like there is obviously a lot of effort put into it, and it is really cool. And to its credit, that it's not trying to be accurate. I think, like, I don't know, like the history of gladiators is pretty interesting, but kind of like this whole movie's about the myth of Rome and this idea of a dream to aspire to, and like I was thinking about it in both of them. Roman culture was really, really fucked up, right? Like it was brutal, it was selfish, it was callous, it was very much based on trying to be just the best, and anyone who's not as good as you is inherently worth less than you. And like having this movie, the whole thing is like there's this real impetus there of like I just want to spend time with my family and be a humble farmer. And then the emperor's like, there's a dream of Rome. It's just, like Rome should be a utopia. It's like there's no historical founding for that. Like Rome was very much like, no, let's crush people under our boot heels and have them. They had things for their citizens, but it was not like this empire striving to be like a place for everyone or this place that all people could come and be one under the banner. It was like, you can be a slave, or you can abandon all your identity and become a member. Anyway, my point is like,
sorry, go
ahead.
Yeah.
No, my point. All right, you go.
Isn't it like, I don't know? It all feels very. It feels a bit like propaganda for democracy almost. Like,
yes,
as in that's the part they're propping up, not the truth, right? Of conquering all these nations and
Yeah, and that's kind of my point. Like, I think all of it works. Like the liberties he takes with it, the having like this really humble general. It's like a humble general in ancient Rome is just it's a oxymoron. But like having that and then having the cool armor sets and everything, and we'll talk about it at least for number 2, where there's like sharks and shit in the Colosseum. And some historians are like, "Oh, this never happened." It's like, got some bad news for you. A whole lot of this shit never happened. And like that's fine. Like this is a fantasy of Rome, and it's cool. Like it's fun to have that. It's fun to have all the gladiators wearing different costumes, and like some of them make no sense. But I don't know. It's a fantasy, yeah. Like I have no issue calling this movie a fantasy, whereas some people might, I guess. But
my favorite thing was like I kept seeing articles pop up about historians say that Gladiator, like 2 specifically, isn't historically accurate, and people would ask Ridley Scott about it.
Yeah,
he's like, of course they had sharks. He's like, what the hell are you talking about? If they put water in there, they put sharks in there.
Apparently that's true. They did put water in there. Like there is
I was
records.
Surprised at. I had no idea.
Seems unnecessary. But I love the fact that Ridley Scott is just like that though. Like happened with Napoleon recently, and then like the last
dude's 87.
Yeah, I know.
I know.
He's got like 4 movies coming up on IMDb too. Like he's just not going to stop.
No, he'll direct. Yeah, he'll direct till he's dead.
I've seen some interesting dialogue online recently about the first Gladiator. I think obviously it was brought up with the second one coming out. And I wanted your guys' thoughts on it. Like people, I think through a lens looking back at it, feel like Russell Crowe's performance isn't great in it. Like they're like, oh, it's good, but I don't look at it as like a best picture actor performance. But that maybe just because of the popularity of the film, they felt like Russell Crowe was kind of owed an Oscar for other performances. But they were like, it's weird that this is Russell Crowe's winning performance. Where people felt like he's acted a lot more in other ones. And I'd seen that before. Rewatching the first one and watching it. There's a lot of classic quotes and iconic quotes, but it kind of does feel very I'm gonna say a badass quote now, as opposed to feeling real. You know, where I guess is where it comes into the fantasy aspect of it. Where it's
Yeah.
like, well, this isn't how a real person would talk, but this is how like a badass actor in a lead film would talk. I just wanted
This is how, say, Gerard Butler in 300 would talk, as a good example.
madness.
Notable Oscar nominee.
Notable Rob.
Yeah.
Give Gerard Butler Best Actor. Cowards.
So the other movies going for Best Actor in 2001 were Javier Bardem in Before Night Falls, never seen it. Jeffrey Rush in Quills, Tom Hanks in Castaway, and Ed Harris in Pollock.
Yeah, Slim Pickens.
Yeah.
I mean, Castaway.
Tom Hanks?
For me, the only other one I know, like I have seen there, is Castaway.
Yeah. And I know Conan's a huge Tom Hanks fan.
So, and we all know Tom Hanks is hack, so why would we give him that?
But yeah, it's interesting because you feel like Castaway is probably more of a Oscar bait performance.
It totally is. That is more of a vehicle for it, right? Like a movie that's literally just about him
acting on an island.
I think you're right. Like, I wonder if part of it was, it's like it's a showcase just for him. I think there is part of it is like they felt like Russell Crowe was because Hanks had already won one Oscar at that point for Philadelphia. I'm pretty sure.
Yes,
I should double check that. Yeah, Best Actor in that, and then the year after he'd won it for Forrest Gump. So he'd already had 2 Best Actor winners. So I wonder if that played a part of it, right? Like 6 years later, they're like, do we need to give him another one? Best Russell Crowe. I don't know. Russell Crowe in that era though, we kind of forget about it now because he's a bit of a joke, right? He's a bit of a joke here in Australia. Like he's the guy who lives in the bush near Coffs Harbour and he just loves the Rabbitohs, and he's put on a lot of weight and he just kind of seems like he's just kind of faded from limelight. Some people would look at him and go, "Oh, he's a washed-up failure," but I think it's just he's living the life he wants to live. He wants to just,
His role in Thor, I always forget that he's in Thor as Zeus, and he's like got this horrible Greek accent.
Well, no, he's playing the Aussie Greek accent from like 80s things.
Yeah.
Like he's doing Costa the Greek grocer down the road.
Yeah.
Like I think he's doing kind of what he wants to do. He doesn't want to be a big actor. He wants to just do small films, make some money, and watch the Rabbitohs play footy. Yeah. But in that era, like. I'm trying to find the years here, but like he had Romper Stopper years earlier where it became pretty big. He had LA Confidential in 97. He's fantastic in. He's got The Insider in 99. Gladiator, then he's like Proof of Life, Beautiful Mind, Master and Commander, Cinderella Man, A Good Year, 3, Tender Humor, American Gangster.
Like crazy when you go back and look at it, man. He's had some impressive films.
Like that is a really good run. And he was just kind of like, he was one of like the biggest actors in the world. He could sell a movie based on just his face. Like, I don't know, like Master and Commander is a movie about, ships. I don't think that many people are interested in it, but that movie did pretty well because it was just Russell Crowe on ships and people were like, shit, yeah, I'll watch Russell Crowe on boats. So I don't know. I think there's part of it is just like that is and I felt that watching Gladiator 2 is like Pedro Pascal is different, but Paul Mescal is really, really good. But he's more of an actor, whereas Russell Crowe is more of a movie star, I guess. Yeah, like he's just got a charisma.
Because I think people talked about The Insider being the movie that he should have won an Oscar for previous to Gladiator.
Yeah, but like really good performance in that. So yeah, I had the same thought though watching it. I'm like, his performance isn't like, wow, that's like what a profound tapping into the character. But I was thinking like this movie doesn't work if the lead doesn't work.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But Russell, the
lead nearly needs to be like kind of this larger than life piece of the movie, right?
Yeah, and I think Russell Crowe totally carries that. Like, that's a big difference between 1 and 2, in my opinion. Like, they don't have the same strength of lead, and that definitely makes a difference.
And like it works for it, as in people still quote a lot of lines from these movies and look at them scenes as like iconic scenes where he said like reveals his name and takes the helmet off. People like look at that as an iconic movie scene, so it works for what it is. And even in the movie, it plays to the legend of him, where Lucius is saying like, oh, I heard you can't be killed and all this stuff. Like there's all these rumors about this larger than life figure. So yeah, it does work.
Yeah. Grana, what did you think?
Of his performance specifically?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I like him there. Like, you're right. Is it like an actor's performance? Not necessarily, but I think he's very entertaining. And there was even like, yeah, it's easy to make comparisons between this and Gladiator 2 and the performance there. And like, you know, the scenes where he's playing to the crowd and he's doing the crowd work, like, I think Russell Crowe nails that, and I don't think you get that in Gladiator 2. Like, it's just not the same.
Yeah.
Should have been called the Rizzler. It's got that Riz.
They were using that word in 2004, sure.
Absolutely.
We talked like real
back
people.
to the Roman Empire. Holy shit. We're gonna.
All right, anything more to add about Gladiator 1? I'll be honest, I watched this movie like 3 weeks ago, and it's mostly left my brain.
Yeah. I like the final battle with him and Joaquin, that really Joaquin isn't a threat to him at all. And even as he's dying, he can still, he'll destroy him. And I've always loved the image of them all carrying this, slave gladiator's body out, and they just leave the emperor there. He's just laying there on the ground by himself.
Yeah.
And they're all walking away from him and just leaving him there. And it's fitting of that character. I really like it.
Yeah.
Actually, I appreciated a lot of the there's a fair bit of CGI work in this movie, and I think it's really well done for a movie that came out in the year 2000, because that can look bad, looking back at it. But the fight with the tigers and stuff like that was all well cut and shot well to disguise the fact that he's not actually being attacked by a tiger, obviously. And you got these huge crowds and you're rebuilding the Colosseum. I think it all like looks schmick. You couldn't pick it really.
Yeah, there's a couple of scenes of the whole, the city of Rome.
The wider pans of Rome, yeah.
Yeah, and you can see that there, but that's to be. Yeah, you see that now in plenty of films anyway. The other thing I'd mention is Jimon Honsu.
I was about to say
one of the greatest second or third fiddle actors of the 2000s. Just was in everything.
That guy.
Never, always the groomsman, never the groom. I'm like, I just love Jimon Honsu. He's so good.
He's really good in this. Like, I like his dynamic with Russell Crowe. Like,
I think he's really, again, it's like I almost wanted more. Like, his whole character is just to enable Russell Crowe, and he's very much just like, hey, he's like, hey, you're the best. I'll follow your lead and I'll give you some wise advice. I kind of wanted to see a bit more from him, but I
was waiting for a cameo in the second one.
That would have been pretty cool.
He's still acting. He's still good.
Yeah, I really feel a bit bad when I see him. Like, he should have just. I mean, he had Blood Diamond where he's like the second lead, but
Blood Diamond is such a good movie.
I love Blood Diamond. Blood Diamond. Let's do Blood Diamond episode.
Yeah, the Blood Diamond trilogy.
But he's just never really had he's never been able to break into mainstream stuff. He's always been. He just seemed to have been held back by something. That's a shame.
Yeah, no,
but he's really good.
He's the biggest that guy for me. Like, I could point him out in 100 movies, but I wouldn't necessarily know his name except for I've looked it up here today. So
even he shows up in Guardians of the Galaxy as not a big name character, and I remember seeing him in it and being like, why are you doing this?
He's in Captain Marvel. He's in stacks of movies.
Nice. Yeah,
he should be bigger.
He should.
Yep. All right. Gladiator 2, 2024. After his home is conquered by the tyrannical emperors who now lead Rome, Lucius is forced to enter the Colosseum and must look to his past to find strength to return the glory of Rome to its people. Again, this myth of Rome being something greater.
Yeah, which is fine. I'm all for the fantasy here.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I really I like the idea of twin emperors, sort of hinting at that idea. Like, this is
cool.
It's two-faced, it's fickle, but it's also divided. It's like all the great empires have two emperors, right? It's like, how sort of bloated and corrupt and just useless is this thing that they need two emperors to run it, and they're all doing a poor job. Like, it's a really clever sort of motive to just be like, this place is really rotten.
I don't know what it is about it, but it scratched like a video game itch to me, where I was like, the twin emperors. I was like, oh, this is so cool. Like the next bosses, they're like the evil twins that are ruling the country. It was really cool.
Yeah. I hadn't watched anything before this movie, and then watching the opening, I thought Pedro Pascal was like going to be the main guy, and I don't know if I like him. Like, he's too competent. He's too likable. Like, this is not going to be an emperor I'm going to love to hate like Joaquin Phoenix. And I was concerned, but then I think you're having the twin emperors and having him almost be kind of the Russell Crowe, the Maximus stand-in some ways is an interesting play for a sequel.
Yeah.
So, since you brought it up, I just want to bring up, this is another thing that I wanted to ask you guys about. I saw a post online yesterday that was talking about this, and it made me think about it, where they said Gladiator 2 would be a better film if Pedro Pascal was the lead. And it was about more his battle in Rome with the twin emperors and the rise of Denzel's character to try and overthrow everything. And it's his battle with that, and also dealing with the twin emperors and everything like that. And Lucius isn't really a character in it so much. And I was interested in that because I really enjoyed Gladiator 2. Like, I had a blast watching it at the cinema. Really enjoyed it. But then leaving it, I did have the feeling where I was like, oh man, Pedro Pascal was great. And I felt like there wasn't really a part where I was fully behind Lucius, where I was like, oh man, Lucius is awesome. I never felt that with him in Gladiator 2 the way I felt with Maximus, but I definitely felt it with Pedro's character. And I found it really interesting because coming into it, I thought Pedro was the villain of the whole movie. So yeah, when it does that flip, I was like, oh, this is cool. But yeah, I wanted your guys' opinions on that and how you felt.
I mean, I think my biggest problem with Lucius is that I think the way his character is written, like his motivations are so muddy the whole way through. They turn on a dime at one point. Like with Pedro's character, like you know his motivations, and you can map them almost exactly onto Maximus. But like it's, you know what I mean? Like he's a lot easier to get behind because of that, I think. Whereas I didn't mind Paul Mescal's performance or anything like that, but I have just that third act is so muddy, and I feel like that character's motivations just flip-flop all over the place, and I think that movie's got some real problems.
Well, his motivations are also like that's kind of covered up by the whole just he wants revenge, and so I think in that room they can do some you're right, they do some messy character work because at the end of the day it's always like, well, I killed his wife, and that's shorthand for just, I understand why anyone's doing anything, right? They killed someone you love, so you're going to go on revenge. And so even then when he's like, yeah, I'm trying to come back to reclaim my throne, or I'm trying to come back and save the city or something, it's always kind of saved by, or I guess balanced out by just, even if I don't know what he's doing, it's like, I know that he wants revenge, and that's easy to track. It's really tricky with legacy sequels to do that. Like, how do you remain faithful but also build upon the original? And they kind of split, I guess, the character into two. They've got like the revenge part, Maximus in Paul Mescal, and then you've got the conflicted general who wants to make a better city or a better empire in Pedro.
Yep.
And like that is a cool. I agree, that's a cool dynamic. I really do like their interplay, where it's like for half the movie he's trying to kill him, and the villain switch, and Denzel becomes the villain, and it's like, okay, I liked all that. I thought it was a clever way.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does feel like, I don't know, all the general stuff this movie's trying to say or comment on feels really weird. Like I think I don't like saying this, but it feels like there's two different movies here. Or one is like this intriguing, this political intrigue and this dense like exploration of conflicted people in this empire, where you've got Denzel trying to rise up and Pedro trying to be the good right thing. And like they talk a lot about the philosophy of this, and like they have a lot of conversations about the philosophy of being a gladiator and what it means. And then you've also just got the revenge movie that is Mescal trying to kill him. And like it kind of works, kind of doesn't.
And it's interesting because like I do like that twist and that dynamic of it, and like I feel like the first half of the movie is kind of exciting in that way because he's trying to get revenge, but because you know more than he does, you don't have that miscommunication where you're like, oh, I hope he's not successful. Like, I don't want him to kill Pedro. And I feel like it might have been interesting even to do a similar movie as what they've done, but have like the roles reversed, as in we're following Pedro for the majority of the first half of the movie. And it's this soldier that we saw briefly at the start. Pedro got a victory, and like we're kind of supporting Pedro. Like, oh yeah, he's Army 1, and to watch him go through like viewing this slave rising up and then trying to kill him, and you're like, oh my god, he's Russell Crowe's character from the first one coming to kill the lead character now. It just felt weird. Like Pedro's got like 15 minutes of screen time apparently in number 2, and I feel like he owns it whenever he's on screen. He's like, I really liked him in this role, and I'm a Pedro Pascal fan, but I felt like he had kind of worn out his welcome a bit recently. Like I was like, oh, he's in another movie, but I don't know. He's so likable. Like I really like him in this role. So yeah,
he's very likable, but it feels like he's I don't know. I don't want to call him Chris Pratt, but he's casting everything, everything that's like the thing that the nerds are into. He's part of.
And it's only getting worse.
This movie is almost outside of that culture, right? But Fantastic Four and all this other stuff coming up, and The Last of Us. We'll see. I still like him though. Yeah, right. Like he's just so charismatic, and it's so hard to like. There's such vibes of his Game of Thrones character here in a lot of ways too. Which is what the character that everybody fell in love with him with.
But that's what's intriguing. I thought he was going to be the villain, and I would have been interested to see Pedro Pascal play a villain. Yeah.
Yep. The thing we haven't talked about is that Paul Mescal is Lucius, who is apparently Lucilla and Maximus's son.
Yeah. So Maximus stepped out on his wife that he fought
how
for the whole movie.
Do you guys like that retcon? I think that kind of betrays Maximus's character a bit.
Is it a retcon as well?
Yeah, that's a good question. Is it?
I don't know. It's to me, the character of Maximus would not cheat on his wife.
No.
But to me, a Roman general would just spread his
seed. It was Rome.
When in
Rome, they say.
Yeah.
Yeah, like because there is that scene in Gladiator 1 where he's like obviously him and Connie Nielsen have a past of some sort.
Yes, it's into that for sure.
Yeah, and he's like, I love my family, and she's like, right on. And it's like, okay, there's something here. Did he turn it down for them, or is this like, what about that one night in Vegas that we had? I don't know. So
she says Lucius is 8, and he's like, oh, my son's 8 too. Like,
yeah,
they're both the same age that what his son was going to be. So, yeah, I don't know. It's interesting because the whole first movie is about him getting revenge on his wife and child getting killed, and his other child's just there. And did he know about it? Because I don't know.
I mean, that's kind of why it works because it honestly can go either way. It can be complete retcon, or it can be like, maybe he didn't know, or it can be Maximus was actually a piece of piss. Soon there'll be people who turn on Maximus and
there's a huge hoe.
Cancel Maximus. I was like. I'm okay with that in general. I don't know if I wanted this connective tissue though.
That's my point. I guess did we need it? And my biggest problem with like Lucius's arc is his relationship with his mother, and like he's like, I'm not the boy that you sent away all those years ago. He's dead, and then all of a sudden he's like, Mum, I love you. I'm gonna save Rome for you. Like that's the part of the character that really frustrates me.
I was just acting out earlier. I didn't mean it.
Like. I don't know. I'm okay with him being like a secret heir to the throne who was cast away, but did he need to be related to Maximus? Did we need this Lucilla link? I'm not convinced.
I think because Lucius had I felt like Maximus was a kind of an integral part of his childhood. This like major event happened, that you didn't need to have a father connection. That he looked at him as like a father figure because he didn't have one, and he was like, man, Maximus saved me. And it's almost this symbolic thing of like, I want to live up to my father figure's life instead of being like, hey, you're his son, by the way. I don't know.
It's that weird thing because, like, again, when Connie Nielsen appears in this, maybe I'm not remembering this correctly, but I feel like when she appears, it's almost like a moment as if the camera hovers on her and it's like audiences are meant to go, holy shit. It's an MCU appearance. And I'm like, no one in the world is like, yes, Connie Nielsen's return.
Yeah.
Like, it's a weird thing where these legacy sequels always feel like they need to have that, like, bring back the fan favorite. It's like we talked about Alien Romulus a few months ago, where it's like Ian Holmes in it for no reason.
Yep.
And it's like no one in the world was like, yes, I needed to see AI Ian Holmes. This is great. I don't know why there's this belief that you need to have the like, why can't you have a sequel that's just like a sequel in spirit only?
Yeah.
Like,
Rome should be the connective tissue between these two movies, right? Like,
and Gladiators, yeah.
and Gladiators.
We know exactly what we're getting. We're getting a movie
Yeah.
about gladiators. You don't need to be like, don't worry, this is Maximus' son. Yeah, it's a weird thing. It's especially because they didn't really market it. Like, they didn't market this as see the rise of his son. They marketed this as like a whole new character
Yeah.
and stuff. And then they sort of drop it in the bombshells. Like, wait, it's actually Maximus is from the
But
first.
the synopsis I read before going in was like, Max or whoever it was, like his nephew. Like it made it very clear that it was Maximus' son. But then it's treated like a a reveal here. I don't know.
Yeah, because
I could have lived without it.
Because beforehand, like the casting on IMDb, I think didn't even have him as Lucius. It has character as a different name, whatever he goes by in the beginning. So I feel like they were trying to keep it a secret. Yeah, I don't know. A weird handling, I guess, is my point.
But I remember seeing that exact same synopsis because I remember being surprised and walking in being like, so when's it going to be revealed that he's his son? Because like that's what I just read on Google that like the synopsis was saying.
Maybe it was our town cinema spoiling movies for us again.
Oh,
again, it's not the first time they've done this.
Bloody hell.
That's pretty good.
Joseph Quinn, I really liked him as well. I like both the Emperors. I thought they were really good. But Joseph Quinn, like, he's kind of that guy again for me. Like, I was like, oh shit, he's in Stranger Things. He's in that
White Place
movie. Yeah, he's popping out up here and there, and I really enjoy his performances.
Fantastic Four as well with Pedro as well.
Yeah,
Johnny Torch.
He's becoming just like Pascal. He's going to be in everything soon.
Good.
I think all these, despite all the problems with the film, like all the narrative problems, the spectacle of the movies works so well. Like the actors in this just are like kicking ass.
Denzel is like just
I was about to say,
scenes. He's having
how
a
could you
time.
not talk about Denzel? He's
like
so good in this.
Love it. He's really like I say both the Emperors. Joseph Quinn's great, and then his brother, like Fred Hetchinger, because he's in one of the seasons of White Lotus, and he's got like he's sort of channeling.
That's where I know him from.
Yeah, he's like the loser son, and he's just channeling that energy. Like he's just got that face of this complete deadbeat, and this is a deadbeat with too much money and power. Like they're really good together. Yeah, Denzel is just like he could have gone crazy. I would have liked to see him go true crazy, but he's still really, really good in this. Like just having fun.
Yeah. Him holding Joseph Quinn's head, like owning the room. He's so good when the pin drops and he like changes like that. It's like, oh shit, he's the villain. Oh my god, this is crazy.
And he just rocks up and kills him. Yeah, it's like all these guys. The sort of the five of them, I guess. Mescal, Denzel, Pedro, and then the two Emperors. They're like dynamics together. They're all really, really good, and they carry it really well.
And then the spectacle of the Colosseum battles, I think, like, yes, they're unbelievable in a lot of ways, like, beyond belief, but a lot of fun. Like, I don't know, give me ships in an enclosed arena with sharks, because that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
100%, yeah.
I lost a streak for this. I had never, ever, at the cinemas, had to go pee before. Ever. Man, I've watched Extended Edition Lord of the Rings, and I've seen them movies many times, and I still never had to pee to the point where I left to go pee. And this one, I just couldn't. I was like, oh my god! I was like, I need to pee. I was like, there was two characters talking. It was him and the guy that locks them up at night in the cages, having a conversation. I was like, okay, I feel like I can get out quick enough and come back. I come back, the Colosseum's filled with water. The ships are flying. There's people being eaten by sharks, and I was like, no! The whole movie, I've been waiting for the water Colosseum battle. Sat down next to my wife. I was like, what did I miss? I was like, what's happened?
To be fair, it just comes out of nowhere. It's not.
That's what she said. She's like, it literally just started. You haven't missed anything.
They don't show all the the bureaucracy involved in filling that place with water. Like,
that's what I was like. How'd they fill it? And she's like, I don't know. I was like, how'd they put the sharks in there?
Would you guys watch like a 10-part series of Gladiator like that, where it's the behind the scenes and they're like, what do we do for this fight? And it's just bureaucrats talking. They're like, that was a good battle. That could get rid of him, I guess.
I want to see the engineers design the platforms with the tigers that come out of the ground and stuff like that. Like, yeah.
I think that'd be fascinating. Yeah, the behind the scenes of the Colosseum and what they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, like all the spectacles in this are really good. Like like Ridley has learned, like he is not a director who, well, he's a director who's past his prime, but he's not like a director who's just got diminishing returns. Like, he's still making pretty good movies, in my opinion. And this is a good example where, like, he's learning action. Like, the action in this movie is better than the action in Gladiator 1. And that might be heresy. I'm sure there's plenty of Gen Xers out there who are super mad. But, like, the battles in this are really, really good. And they look really cool. They feel really visceral.
The Rhino, yeah.
The Rhinos go
Rhino.
like this. Just really, really solid. I had so much more fun with them than I guess in Gladiator 1, which is good because if the action in this was bad, the whole movie would be pretty messy. Because there's no, like, external story to really save it. It's based on the action alone, I'm like, good time in the movies.
Yeah. It felt really epic watching Pedro and Lucius finally like have the fight where it's like, oh no, I don't want either of them to die. This sucks. But yeah, no, it's really powerful. And then Denzel takes out the mother after everything. He's just like, oh, you know what? Hand me the bow and arrow. I'll do this.
How do you guys feel about the final fight being Paul Mescal and Denzel? Like, I never got the impression that Denzel was a fighter.
But he matched him.
And then, we're supposed to believe that it's a hard-fought fight for the final fight. I don't know how you change that, but it's just, I don't know. Didn't sit well with me.
No, it's going for the same energy as the first one, but obviously Commodus sticks Russell Crowe, so it makes sense. Yeah, I don't know why they should have maybe had something like that. Maybe a bow or an arrow hits Mescal before he runs off. Yeah, I don't like when they do that when they're like
he takes deep shots and then
yeah. It always frustrates me that, like, the best warrior in the world can't beat the big boss who's like a bureaucrat.
Yeah.
But you need some.
You had to fight someone at the end, you're right.
Yeah.
He should have given him to the people of Rome and like they just rip him apart. That's the end. That's the dramatic scene.
He kick ass.
He's made to compete as a gladiator. But yeah.
That's in the 10-part series. That's the last episode.
True. But no, I really enjoyed the second one. Like, yeah.
To me, it's a good time out at the movies. Am I gonna go out of my way to find it on streaming? Probably not. But if it was on TV one night and I had nothing better to watch, I'd probably leave it on. So
yeah, I could see myself watching a couple of the battles again.
Yep.
But you're right. Like, I don't know if I ever need to see this movie again, which I know that's like, we saw it at the movies. It's kind of how it's meant to be seen. And I agree, I had a really good time for it. Do you guys want to see a third one? Because I think Russell Crowe wants to make a third one. Not Russell Crowe. Scott. Maybe Russell Crowe comes back. I don't know. There's an original
Russell Crowe's ghost.
He's like, hold up. He's like, this is not my son.
No,
there is a beat on my wife.
There is a version of the sequel that is like involved in the afterlife and Russell Crowe coming back from the dead. It's why they were drafting a sequel years ago. It would have been whack. So it's not beyond possibility that they bring this back.
I'd be down for it, honestly. I had a good time with this movie, and if they can do that again, why not?
Do you follow Lucius, or do you do it again? This is 10 years later. Another emperor's risen up. They keep screwing it up in Rome, and now it's like some other person.
That's the most historically accurate part of this movie, isn't it? All right,
yeah. Despite like it starts with a caption like, despite Lucian's efforts, an evil tyrant has taken over Rome again.
Rome shut the bed yet again.
And maybe they could do like a full MCU reveal, and it's like, and his name is Julius, and it's like, it's Caesar. Whoa.
And it's Robert Downey Jr. as Caesar.
Nice.
This movie writes itself.
It does.
Right. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. Do they?
They probably will.
If they do it in this time frame, yes. Like, the only reason they changed it up is because there was 20 years and Russell Crowe is not a gladiator anymore,
and he was dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
guess. Yeah, I mean, Ridley Scott's going to get it done before.
He's dead.
He's dead. I mean, I don't want to say he's going to die, but the man's in his 80s. He's only got so many years of filmmaking left, so yeah. But I'm down for more of this sort of stuff.
Do we talk about it? Do we do a trilogy on it?
Yeah. Yeah, why not? We should talk about the one though.
And we'll include 300 in that one.
Thank
Oh,
you.
That's not
there's
a
a
bad
second
idea.
300 as well.
300, the 300 sequel, and
And Gladiator 3, the 3
The
trilogy.
perfect trilogy.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right. Anything else to say about Gladiator 2?
No.
Let's rank them. It's 1-2 for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1, 2.
Yeah.
Oh,
No,
Luke with the
1,
2-1.
No
No.
way. No way. Yeah, 1-2.
All right. Fun movies. Fun spectacle movies. Fun popcorn movies. Our next trilogy. Have you guys heard of a little Australian production company called Working Dog? This is not a true trilogy, but they have made 3 movies. We need to get back to Australian movies, in my opinion. You know, I tried to introduce a few with Strictly Ballroom, but you know, you guys turned your noses up at the
No, I like Strictly Ballroom.
musicals.
Strictly Ballroom's good.
So, no, we're looking at 3 movies by Working Dog Productions. They're called The Castle, The Dish, and Any Questions for Ben, which definitely feels like the redheaded stepchild of the trilogy. But they're all by the same production company, all by the same director. I'm going to count that as a trilogy. And yeah, I'm keen to watch these with you guys.
Griner's starting to play a bit fast and loose with the trilogy rules, but we'll allow it.
I've
I've only ever watched The Castle, but I've heard great things about them. But I am a known hater of Australian films. I don't support them, but I don't like Aussie accents. Who'd have thunk it? But I'm interested to watch these.
You just get angry listening to our podcast. Put on an American accent.
Yep, 100%.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll catch you for that one next fortnight. Thanks for listening to The Good, the Bad, and the Worst. This podcast was brought to you by The Taste of Iron and Our God Grotesque by one Conan Clark. Pick them up on Amazon. Reach out to us.
Black Friday sale. Grab them.
Yep, that's it. Bargains on there.
Luke is going to pay the difference because he just made that sale up on his.
Yeah.
But we'll catch you next time. Please rate and review us. It helps us out a heap. And thanks for joining us.
Peace.
So, yeah.